Senator McConnell, let's begin with Senator McConnell. I began the show by playing his impassioned defense of his own patriotism. It's almost impossible for me to fathom someone attacking Mitch McConnell as a Russian asset, given his decades-long devotion to the defense of America and to the anti-communist, anti-Russian, anti-Putin positions he's taken. But nevertheless, they did, and Mitch McConnell barked back.
Hugh, what the Democrats did last week was nothing but rank McCarthyism. And this was obviously coordinated by the Democrats. On the Intelligence Committee, we released a first volume of our report about what the Russians were up to in 2016. And then the Democrats immediately rushed down to the floor of the Senate to seek unanimous consent to pass a bill that had passed a party line vote in the House that would and another bill as well, both of which had serious First Amendment problems. And were also redundant to legislation that Mitch McConnell himself had shepherded across the Senate floor last year that gave over $300 million to states to help harden up their election infrastructure. And let's also remember, Hugh, as you said, Mitch McConnell has seen Vladimir Putin for what he is and has been a Russia hawk for decades, unlike the Democrats, who, remember, when Barack Obama was confronted by Mitt Romney in 2012, said the 1980s were calling if you thought Russia were still an adversary. But, Donald Trump, I guess, helped all these Democrats rediscover their inner Cold Warrior.
Yeah, well, they're now running a Twitter campaign with the hashtag Moscow Mitch, treason. And it's done with the assistance of the Russian bots. You can tell that. I can smell out the Russian bots when they're at work here. So there's no little irony that Moscow is helping perpetrate the attacks on Leader McConnell because he's a big supporter of the Magnitsky Act, as I believe you are, and does not want in any way, shape, or form sanctions to be reduced on Russia. And we had the Obama era indifference to what they were doing. It is really an inversion of reality for the Democrats to adopt this. Does it work?
No, Hugh, of course it doesn't work. No one who matters in Mitch McConnell's life in the United States Senate or the state of Kentucky believes the disinformation that the Democrats are spreading, that is most likely, as you say, supported by Russian internet trolls on social media. Nor can they erase the fact that Mitch McConnell has been a stalwart opponent of Vladimir Putin in the Senate for decades, and that the Democrats, by contrast, especially under Barack Obama, have consistently appeased and conciliated with Vladimir Putin.
Now, I want to switch to the new DNI. Last night, the Washington Post ran a story, an opinion piece. Trump's intelligence shakeup could be his most dangerous move. And David Ignatius argued that there are a lot of intelligence community career people who do not like Congressman Ratcliffe coming over to replace Dan Coats. And I argued, look, I've never believed we have a deep state, but I do think we have a permanent government. Deep states disappear people, they coerce people, they listen in on people. But we have a permanent government with permanent interests and career officials at the intelligence community, and they do not want John Ratcliffe. And so they are attempting to leak him out of contention. What do you think is going on here? Because I think the permanent government ought not to be able to pick the director of national intelligence.
And, well, David Ignatius tends to be the stenographer for never Trump Democrats inside the government who would rather not be overseen or affected by those messy things that we call elections, Hugh. I know John Ratcliffe a little bit. His district abuts southwest Arkansas. We've worked together on some matters related to Arkansas, or to Texarkana and the Red River area. I also know John's a very capable prosecutor and a serious and thoughtful lawyer. I have every reason to suspect that he will succeed as the DNI, and it is appropriate for the president to nominate the people in whom he has trust. Sometimes presidents in the past have nominated career intelligence officials to those jobs. That's fine, like Gina Haspel. Sometimes they have nominated people who come from political backgrounds, like Mike Pompeo and Leon Panetta as well. So I wouldn't say that you have to nominate one kind of person or the other. What matters is the person. And I have confidence that John Ratcliffe is going to put himself well as he goes through the confirmation process, and if confirmed, will serve with distinction as the DNI.
How much of the pushback against Ratcliffe, do you believe, is rooted in concern over hashtag Spygate? It does seem to me that the one thing we got out of the Mueller hearings was an admission that he had done nothing on the Steele dossier, nothing on the mysterious people, Mitzlap, and everyone else who's coming in and out of the picture with Papadopoulos, et cetera, and that the president has directed the attorney general to make all of this available. How much do you think the IC is worried about Spygate?
Almost entirely related to the fact that he is a Donald Trump nominee, which in part is about how the fake collusion narrative first got into the political bloodstream, Hugh. If John were not involved in it at all, the Democrats would still probably oppose him because he's a Donald Trump nominee, and that's just what they do these days. But the fact that he was on the Intelligence Committee and he helped expose some of the questions last week about the origins of this fake collusion claim, I'm sure only intensifies the Democrats' opposition.
Do you think there is more to come on the Spygate, or will the Inspector General, the two choices are explosive Inspector General report and charges from John Durham, or nothing from the IG and nothing from John Durham, the U.S. Attorney in Connecticut? And there's a spectrum between them, but I think those are broadly the two categories. Which one do you expect to be unfolding, Senator Cotton?
I expect I don't know if it'll be explosive, Hugh, but I suspect it'll be more than nothing. I'll put it that way on your spectrum. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't see so many Obama officials scrambling in the media over the last couple of months trying to cover their bases and point the finger at each other saying, no, it was the FBI, no, it was the CIA, no, it was the DNI, no, it was the White House that started all this. But there's a lot of fishy business with the fake Steele dossier, which itself was a form of Russian disinformation, and the FISA court warrants against some loosely affiliated Trump campaign associates, and then their efforts to try to misdirect all attention away from the origins of this investigation into what they claim for 2 years would be the explosive conclusions of it, but which we now know proved what any sensible person could have seen all along, that there was, of course, no collusion between the Trump campaign and foreign intelligence services.
Now, let me close by asking you about Afghanistan. We had a sad green-on-blue attack yesterday. 2 American soldiers murdered by an Afghan, quote, ally, close quote. Names have not been reduced, but also we have news that President Trump has directed aides to reduce troops in Afghanistan by the 2020 election. Secretary Pompeo announced yesterday. Do you think that's a wise move? Do you think there's margin to draw down beyond where we are right now, Senator Cotton?
Possibly, Hugh. This is the president's off-stated policy, and I don't know anybody who wants to keep troops in Afghanistan just for its own sake. I think a lot will depend on the progress that Secretary Pompeo and Ambassador Khalilzad make in their peace negotiations and what conditions on the ground are in Afghanistan.
Even if we progress with the peace negotiations, would you expect Bagram to remain a robust presence in that country as a sort of forward operating base against terrorism?
Well, I would expect to have some presence, Hugh, even if we make good progress with peace negotiations, just in the same way the president has kept some troops in Iraq and Syria to keep a lid on the Islamic State, or for that matter, like we still have troops in places where we fought in World War II. I would expect at least some minimal presence, maybe not anything on the order of magnitude we have today, but some presence at a base in Bagram, perhaps over closer to the Pakistan border as well, and then, of course, our embassy presence in Kabul.
Senator Tom Cotton, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you, Senator. Don't go anywhere, America. Secretary Azar of Health and Human Services coming up later in the program. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.